Are we starting to see cracks in the Omaha real estate market? Inventory continues to climb, yet sales remain flat. What does that do to home prices in Douglas and Sarpy County? What about mortgage interest rates? These are just a few of the questions we're going to address in today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Let's look at inventory. The number of homes for sale continues to climb. In Douglas and Sarpy County, Nebraska, we have 2,218 homes on the active market. That's up 25.8% compared to 2023. If you break that down between existing and new construction, we have 1,030 new construction properties on the market, which is up 17.7% compared to 2023. And we have 1,188 on the existing homes, which is up 33.9% compared to 2023. As more homes come on the market, that means sellers have to price their home correctly right from the start. Buyers are still out there, but affordability is still a problem. Sellers need to understand this is not the market of 3 years ago. We're in a different market. Now, if you're a seller, you need to be competitive. You can still sell relatively quickly, but you're going to be making some concessions. The market has shifted. Buyers will be doing inspections, which means buyers will be asking for repairs. 2, homes are on the market longer. 3, buyers are asking for closing costs. And 4, you're starting to see price reductions. Now, if you're selling, you need to make sure you don't make this mistake. If you price your home correctly and you do get an offer relatively quickly, don't assume that there's going to be additional offers. Sometimes your best offer is your first offer. If you decide to wait for a higher offer, you might regret it. If you decide to wait a few more days and the buyer moves on, you're not getting that buyer back. The longer your home is on the market, the less likely you are to receive full price. A savvy buyer is not going to wait around. If the offer expires, that buyer is gone. Let's say you do wait for another offer. You might find yourself a few days later with a lower offer. Because what happens, buyers lose that sense of urgency. When that home is first listed, there's a little bit of FOMO, which means fear of missing out. If that home has been out there for a while, then they lose that urgency. Let's jump back and take a look at inventory over the past 10 years. Inventory is increasing. We're around the levels of the pre-pandemic years. Typically, inventory follows a seasonal trend. As we go into winter months, we should expect the inventory to decrease. Normally, we see inventory peak in the month of September. This year, we see inventory peaking in October. We want to keep an eye on inventory to see if it decreases or if it continues to increase next month. What about home prices? The median sale price in Douglas and Sarpy County was $320,000, which is up 6.7% compared to 2023. How does existing compare to new construction? The median sale price for a new construction home for last month was $421,239, which is down 1.5% compared to 2023. Now, is that cause for alarm? No. Builders build homes to make money. Builders will adjust to the marketplace. Seeing a drop of 1.5% in a new construction market is not anything to be alarmed about at this point. For existing, the median sale price in Douglas and Sarpy County was $296,671, which is up 6% compared to 2023. Whenever we look at a price chart, we're looking at the rearview mirror. The homes that closed in October were the homes that went under contract in September. So there's a lag effect when it comes to home prices. Let's look at home prices over the past 5 years. Now, when you watch the news, be careful because people will say, oh, over the past 5 months, home prices have fallen X%. Now, that's a headline designed to get clicks. If you look at this chart, guess what? Happens every fall. Prices decrease. Don't fall for that trap. It happens every year. That's why I like to look at home prices year over year versus from month to month. Year over year, prices are up. Now let's look at closed sales. Sales are still down. Last month, we closed 813 homes in October, which is up just 0.5% compared to 2023. If we look at closed sales over the past 5 years, we see a trend. We have sold fewer homes in the peak summer months and fewer homes in the winter months. Buyers are still out there and they want to buy. So why are sales down? Well, the issue continues to be affordability. To buy a home in today's market, it takes two incomes. Prices are up, mortgage interest rates are up, property taxes are higher, and homeowners insurance continues to go up. Everyone wants to know when home prices will go down. Nobody knows for sure, and nobody has a crystal ball. The real estate market is like any other market. It depends upon supply and demand. If you're waiting for prices to magically come down, you might be disappointed. Does that mean that other markets might see some price declines? Sure. That doesn't mean Omaha prices are coming down. Remember, we want to look year over year and not get caught up in month-to-month fluctuation. So how long is it taking for homes to sell? The average days on market in Douglas and Sarpy County was 24 days on the market. This is up 60% compared to 2023. The median days on market was 7 days on the market. Just a reminder, when we say median, that means half the homes took 7 days or less to go under contract and half took 7 days or more to go under contract. Either way, it's taken a little bit longer for homes to sell. What about months of supply? We currently have 2.6 months of inventory. This means that if no other homes come on the market, it would take 2.6 months to exhaust the current inventory. Just as a reminder, 0 to 3 months of inventory is a seller's market, 4 to 6 months of inventory is a neutral market, and 6 months of inventory or more is a buyer's market. Now let's compare new versus existing. In new construction, we have 6.9 months of inventory, and in the existing market, we have 1.7 months of inventory. We continue to see existing homeowners reluctant to sell because they may have a low interest rate already in place. Speaking of interest rates, according to Mortgage News Daily, the current mortgage interest rate for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 6.92%. Mortgage interest rates continue to be volatile. What will they do in the future? Nobody knows. Just a reminder, mortgage interest rates tend to follow the 10-year Treasury yield. When the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, Jerome Powell is lowering the Fed's funds rate, which is not mortgage interest rates. The federal funds rate is the rate at which commercial banks charge each other to lend their extra reserves overnight. The Fed tends to lower interest rates in order to stimulate the economy and raise rates in order to slow the economy. The Fed would raise rates to slow the economy in order to control inflation. Now, the Federal Reserve has two mandates. Number one, maximum employment, and two, stable prices. Let's take a look at the U.S. inflation rate. Inflation is heading in the right direction. In September, the United States inflation rate was at 2.4%. This has been the lowest rate since February of 2021. Hopefully, we'll keep trending in the right direction. Time will tell. Where is the unemployment rate? The unemployment rate for the United States was 3.9%. This is up from last year when unemployment rate was at 3.6%. In Douglas County, the unemployment rate was at 2.8%, which is up slightly from last year when it was 2.6%. In Sarpy County, the unemployment rate was at 2.5%, which is up slightly from last year when it was at 2.3%. Let's look at the price of lumber. Lumber is currently at $559 for 1,000 board feet. Lumber has been fairly steady over the past 2 years. Now, steady is good. We don't want the crazy spikes in lumber prices like we saw in 2021 and early 2022. Now let's jump back and look at the percent of last list price. Once a home is priced right, how close is the selling price compared to the list price? Now in this chart, we're looking at an average. Now back in 2022, it was over 100%. So it was list price or higher, just a tad over list price. But in 2023, you can see that came down just a tad. And then in 2024, it came down a little bit more. So we're at 99.3%. What about price per square foot? Now we're going to look at new and existing separately, and we're going to look over a 12-month rolling average. For new construction, the price per square foot is $257, which is up 6.2%, while for existing homes, it is $209 per square foot, which is up 4.5%. What impact will a Trump presidency have on the housing market? First off, any decision you face in real estate should not be based on who is in the White House. You should buy a home you can afford when you're ready. Time will tell. Now, President Trump is a big believer in cutting regulations. Now, that's good for the housing market because almost 25% of the cost of building a new home is tied to regulation. Obviously, not all regulations are bad. Hopefully, some common sense can be applied. Energy independence is good if we can drill for oil and lower the cost of fuel. It helps keep prices down on everything, which is good for the economy. If we keep jobs in the United States, this is good for folks. Jobs are good for the housing market. The Trump era tax cuts were scheduled to expire with him getting reelected. Hopefully, they'll be extended, and that'll help keep money in people's pockets, which will help grow the economy. Now, we still have a massive federal debt. Both parties spend way too much money. Now, that's not likely to change. Sooner or later, we're going to have to address that. Now, some of the issues we're seeing in housing, no matter who was elected, are simply going to take time, and it'll take years to correct some of these issues.